Hey everyone, this is Austin Schur here with We Write About Music, and today I'm chatting with Fia Nyxx, who has just put out her second full-length LP titled Red Umbrella. Fia, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I was super excited when I heard back from you. Obviously, I love your publication and
You.
we've worked together on a previous single. So I
Yeah.
was like, gotta share the album with you. Was super excited to hear back and I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you for coming. It's always great to put a face to the name when the music is as good as it is. Where in the world are you?
So I'm based out of Los Angeles. I also spend a lot of time on the East Coast, performing and writing, making music, and then also my family and other business is in Denver. So I kind of travel
Nice.
quite a bit, but base ground zero for me is Los Angeles.
Nice, same here. Yeah, I'm based out of Los Angeles, but I also spend a lot of my time in Denver, which is weird.
Oh, really?
So,
How funny. Are
yeah,
you from
most of my
there?
friends live there. No, I was born in San Diego and I've been in LA for the past like 10-ish years, but
Oh my
all
gosh,
my
how fun.
friends decided to move to Denver, so it's just a
It's a
back
good
and forth.
place.
It's a great place. I don't blame them. So yeah, obviously I want to talk about this record. Let's just hop right into it. It is fantastic from start to finish. You
Oh,
really like instantly pique the listener's interest.
thank
what
you.
what is it about? Is there like a one long message or is it just a series of individual stories?
Yeah, it's crazy because Red Umbrella really took on a life of its own. I started writing like shortly before the pandemic, and I wasn't writing with the intention of creating an album. Of
Okay,
course, that was the goal because I originally wanted to put another one out, but had we not, shut down, I was supposed to be touring and
of
traveling even
course.
more. And um, with all this time on my hands and a lot of like unresolved feelings, I just started writing. And I always write very much based off of what's going on in my immediate, surroundings, what I'm dealing with. Everything I write is very personal and very
Sure.
real to who I am and what I'm going through. And so Red Umbrella is the story of how I kind of came into my own over these last very transformative couple years. And it actually started with the title Red Umbrella and kind of evolved from there. So there is definitely a streamline from the first track to the last,
Sure,
um,
sure.
and kind of like an in-depth woven story of me just coming into my womanhood, coming into who I am as an artist, as a person, the things I've dealt with. There's fun, sexy, daring elements. There's love story. There's, just everything that I've kind of utilized to become who I am today within the tracks.
That's awesome. And it fully comes through. Like you can totally feel it in the production. And it's
Oh, thank you.
I say this about a lot of music, but this is the first thing that kind of hit me was like there is a cohesiveness. Like the
That's so
production on it, it really does feel like although these songs stand alone on their own, you're kind of like transported. It's the full album experience from start to finish.
oh,
Um,
thank you.
and all your describers fully show themselves too. Like it's dramatic, it's suspenseful, it's not no even like on the song structure wise, they're not just like verse chorus verse.
Yeah,
It's like they're their own little world, which I enjoyed a
that's so
lot.
cool. That's so
Yeah,
cool to hear because that was very much the intention. When we were writing, this was the first time that I hadn't been on like a very strict deadline to get an album out. There
yeah,
was no, big name people on my shoulder telling me what genre we had to fit in, what the
yeah,
purpose of these tracks or this album was going to be, which for me in the past has been very like commercial pop, or there's always some sort of motive behind the songs and some sort of structure. This was the first time I was just creating to create. And I wanted to kind of,
yeah.
dive into other genres, and not even for the sense of doing that, but just because it felt right. And I was pulling other inspirations and kind of just taking the top off so I could just be free with my art.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to just see how it unfolded. But it, like you said, I'm glad you saw that. We wanted it to have that streamline, that storyline that connected it all, despite how different, one track is from the next.
I love it. Yeah, seriously, I don't think any artist should ever be confined to, okay, everything needs to be done by this date. Like, what kind of like normal person puts out good things when they're like, okay, we need 10 songs by next week? That's just not
Right,
really feasible.
right.
And I don't know. It's like, yeah, I could talk about that all day. It's not upsetting, but it's just like, what do you expect when you put a rush and a deadline on things? Like an
Oh,
artist
totally.
needs time to create.
And I think that was one beautiful part of the pandemic, amidst all of the craziness and the,
Yeah.
the hard parts. That was one thing that kind of gave us more time than most of us know what to do with. And just as an artist who's on the go a lot, I don't
Yeah.
always get that like very focused, controlled time to just be free and create, which is, why we start making music, is because we're artists, we're creatives, we have stories to tell and things we want to try, and that's our outlet for most of us. And we rarely get that opportunity to just kind of live in that world, as you said, and like create our own little world. It's usually very structured, and it's never that free.
I agree. Well, that's the beauty of music, is it gives you the freedom to do what you want.
Mhm.
I want to know, what are some things that you think that you did differently from your debut album to the second? Like as far as like not even growing as a person, but just like, oh, this is how this should be done, or I'm gonna do this
Totally.
differently next time.
Oh, so many things.
I'm
There's so
sure.
many
I'm
things.
sure of it.
Yeah, I wish I would have known like a
Yeah.
fraction of what I know now. Also from a business standpoint, like obviously, a lot changed within the music itself. A big thing for me was vocally.
Yeah.
Before or between my first album and the one I'm releasing now, I have really, really dived in to take vocal lessons and training and really become
Nice.
a different vocal artist, because for so long, my history, I started as a professional dancer and had some pretty successful, ventures in that journey.
Sure.
And when I became a singer, there was always this kind of like, oh, she's a great performer, she's a great dancer who can sing. And like I kind of wanted to flip the script. And
Yeah.
so I really, really worked vocally on this album to be able to come out and to be more of a vocalist and less of like a dancer first that can sing. So vocally speaking, that was a big thing I did different, but almost more than anything else, it was all the behind the scenes, all of the stuff that needs to go down on the business side so that people can actually hear your music. So the first go round, I had some huge names on my album, but that album just didn't get the attention I think it deserved. And it
Sure.
was mainly just because, again, you live and you learn. But this time, it's very important to do PR, and it's very important to like get out there and network. And you have to kind of constantly be promoting yourself. Even though you're the artist, you also have to be the businesswoman, to get your music out there if you
That's what
want to
people
have
don't
a
understand that.
sustainable career. So you can't, and also it's very much strategy. There's a timing to when this stuff should release and how you should build up to it. And
Yep.
you have to do it right. You can't cut any corners and you can't rush it, because I mean, I didn't know any better the first go round, but that music, I still love my first album, and I think it will definitely
Sure.
have its time, but I don't think it got the recognition it could have if I knew what I know now then.
Exactly. Well, music has become so disposable nowadays. It's
Right.
like, okay, there's 15 albums coming out on Friday. Maybe
Yeah.
you'll be lucky enough for someone to listen to yours, and then maybe they'll like it enough to share it to a friend. But
Right.
then, I don't know, just being an independent artist as a whole is a whole nother beast, because you don't have a
Oh,
hundred people behind you
right.
who their jobs rely on getting you heard. You know what I mean? It's just like,
Exactly.
I don't think the average consumer of music realizes that it's not just getting in a studio and making it and then, okay, I'm done. Like, that was fun.
Right.
Because I
Right.
mean, I don't know, at least for you, and I don't make music, but from what I've heard, it's tough, because making music and being an artist should be fun. It should generally be a fun job.
Yeah.
But then comes the business end, and
Right.
it's towing the line of like, I want this to not feel like a job, but also I
Yes.
know what to do and what not to do. It's complicated.
Right.
It's
That's so true.
complicated.
But you know what else is fun? When that shit pays off and
Well,
suddenly
Yeah.
people hear it.
Exactly. Yeah, obviously. But it's
So
the
I
middle
totally
part
agree
that
with you.
sucks.
Right, exactly. So I totally agree with you. And I think like just because, my inner circle is composed of mostly artists and creators and people in
Sure.
that industry, that's one thing that I'm really trying to kind of shove down everyone's throat is like, you guys are some of the most talented people I know. Let's do this right. Let's put the time in, let's do the dirty work and make sure this music gets heard.
You've got to prop each other up. That's part of it. It's a community. As
Right.
much as it is sort of a competition, at the same time, you've got to leverage each other in the social media world. It's
1000%.
like just this stupid rat race of, again, could talk
Yeah.
about it for hours, but it's
Oh,
so
so could
annoying.
I.
Okay, so for basically like someone who hasn't listened to your music before, how would you describe your style? I know that's a tough one because this specific album touches on so many genres, but if you
Yeah.
had to give like the elevator pitch to someone, what would you call it?
Yeah. And
I have a hard time even putting a name on it. So I would like to
I
hear
know,
from
and this has
you.
been like the question of my whole career because it's ever evolving. But I think what it
That's a
stems
good
back to
thing.
is I am very much rooted in like soul and Motown and anything with like a grit and a little
Yes.
bit of like a soul jazz vibe. And
Feel
then I've
that?
taken that and put like a big contemporary pop twist on it.
Okay.
So you're never gonna catch me doing like, you know, I mean, I shouldn't say that. I won't say that, but I don't like to tend to do
Sure.
like the poppy bubblegum stuff. I always need it to like kind of stand for something more or have
Okay.
like I grew up on like Motown music and Southern rock and roll and any like I kind of gravitate towards some of that jazzy, bluesy,
Yeah.
great. I don't know what else to call it. But so I think that stems in the heart of most of my music. And then I'm also, very much into, especially lately, gospel. I grew up in the church singing. As I said before too, I love big,
Awesome.
powerful vocals. So, anything that's heavy on the vocals, heavy on the soul, my music always has a storyline. And I guess it is some version of R&B pop, but again, it's kind of like ever evolving. But if you want to like feel something, whether that's love or hope or excitement, or if you want to like feel something, I feel like that's where my music comes in.
I think that's kind of the perfect explanation because it's not just like, yeah, it's indie pop because
Right,
it's not. I mean, I even think
right.
there's like an old Hollywood, like 20s,
Yes.
30s vibe to it
A
where it's
big, a
like,
big amount of that. And that I think even translates even more so into the live shows I do. I think that's where that really comes out is that old Hollywood glam thing.
I was gonna wait to ask, but now that you brought it up, are there live shows planned? Is
There
there
are.
any sort of touring plan that you'd like to talk about or not talk about or
Well, I can't release too much yet,
okay.
but I can tell you that it's exciting because 2020, I actually signed with a big booking agent. It was supposed to be like the tour of my career. And as we
Yeah.
all know, that didn't happen. So all those dates are coming back around. A few things I can talk about. I am also doing another song with a really awesome artist who I don't know if I can mention who it is, but somebody big, and it could put us in the Coachella scene. So that's me kind of going back to my EDM roots for that.
Very
So
cool.
that single is going to be really cool. It's going to come out this summer and it's going to be in all the dance kind of EDM festivals. So that's big for me. And then I do have a lot of tour dates filling in, a lot in Colorado. A lot of my fans know that I perform in Denver almost
Nice.
every month, usually. There's a cool venue, Dazzle, that I have a residency at.
Nice.
And then we also have some stuff on the East Coast pending out. 54 Below, Feinstein's in New York. I'm going to be
Cool.
there in a couple months. And most recently, which I can talk about this, March 16th, I'm opening the show at a brand new club, Black Rose LA. They're taking over what used to
Jeez.
be Rockwell, which is a really cool, like world-renowned venue for anyone who knows. So I'm going to be opening the show there and debuting a few of the songs from the album. So
Hell yeah.
yeah,
Well, there's a lot of exciting things coming up. Um,
yes.
yeah, as much as I want to keep talking about this record, but I also kind of want to know, are you the type of artist that is always looking towards the future in terms of creation? Like, Do you have any idea of what you might want to follow this up with, whether it be continuing to experiment with your sound or just like demos that didn't make this record?
It's so funny because you're right on. Like, as an artist, we always have to be forward thinking,
Yeah,
because as soon as you get that traction and your stuff's out, you can't just let it lag, or else you lose the momentum. So
exactly.
I definitely do. Like I said, I have that feature coming out. I have a couple other collaborations I'm currently working on with some other writers, which
Sweet.
are really exciting. As for my own projects, I don't know. I guess it depends on what happens to me in the next couple of years.
That's true.
Because again, like I do think that when I put out my own material, when I make an album, I think I want to continue along that track of always being genuine with where I'm at the time and
Sure.
whatever is resonating at the time. So I'll probably do something similar and just start creating and try to always give myself, now that I know how productive that can be, give myself that time to just be creative, and as much as I can not have to hit these certain deadlines.
Totally.
I
That's what
guess
it
that
goes
is one of
back
the
to.
benefits. Yeah. So yeah, I want to continue to evolve. I want to continue to try new genres. One thing I will say is some of the stuff I'm already working on is kind of going in like a more rock direction. I always
Cool.
wanted to be a rock star. So
I mean, who
don't be
doesn't want to
surprised
be
if
a rock
that's the
star?
next album. Yeah.
Yeah, are you kidding
I have
me?
like like a rock star somewhere in here that's like dying
Yeah.
to come out. So that might definitely rear its head in the next album.
Hell yeah. I mean, that's another thing about being an independent artist and not necessarily being strapped to people telling you what to do is you're at, the beginning of your career, you're still putting out records and singles and blah blah blah. Like you should be able to experiment with what you want to
Right.
make. You're the person that's spending the time and the effort and like you should
And the
make the
money.
music you want to and the money. You should do what you want to do. You should do what makes you feel happy. And if rock and roll is
Mhm.
that way, then I say do whatever you
You
want.
say more power to you. Yeah.
What I'm saying, like if I can see the
Yes, I
Fia
love
Nyxx
that.
Broadway-esque show, or if I can see the Southern Rock show, like
Oh,
I'm personally in for both.
oh,
So,
thank you. Because I'm personally in for both too. I feel like I could
oh yeah,
definitely cater to the theater thing, and then definitely like a Broadway thing, and then come out as a little mini rock star. So
boom. And then let's fast forward 20 years from now, you're playing individual album shows. You know what I mean? Like it's like
yeah.
Fia Nyxx presents. It's like, oh yeah, I'm playing hits off my
Oh my
first and
God.
second album, and then
I love
boom,
that.
there
See,
you go.
you
I
completely
know,
get me. I feel
I
very
get it.
heard.
I, this is what I'm here for. I'm here
This is what
to
you do.
prop
I
people
love it.
up and inflate egos.
There you go. Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you.
You're
I needed
welcome.
that today.
Perfect. Okay, so I want to know, like, more on the process side of things. Is there something that you look forward to the most when you're making a new song, whether it be like reliving whatever experience it was while writing, or like getting in the studio and figuring it out?
My favorite part by far is being in the sound booth. So
Yeah,
actually in there recording the vocals, because I'm very much that person that has already practiced it 3,000 times. I will never just show up to the studio and be like, let's wing this, at least not from what I expect of myself. So like when you get in there, that's when you're really hearing it come to fruition for the first time. So if I think far and beyond, I like to actually record the vocals, and then
sure.
over that process, my producer and I, that's where we start to fill in other elements. So once we see, where the vocals are hitting, that's when we start filling in the production, and that's when the song starts to come to life. And the way that we work, we kind of do that simultaneously. And to me, that's my favorite part, because
Yeah,
I can feel, and we work very well together. My producer, Sam J. Garfield, he is blowing up right now. And I can be the one that said I had him
nice.
first,
There you go.
but
While he was
he,
cheap.
that's right. And so
Yeah.
we've also been friends for like 10 years,
Oh, that's
but
nice.
we just work really well together. And he somehow just like gets in my brain, and then he takes what I'm thinking and he like twists it into this really cool, really like eclectic thing that, isn't really happening a lot in music. And we just experiment together, and it's such a fun process. That's when it's like, okay, all this hard work and all of this stress is worth it for those moments.
It's great. You get to see it come alive in real time. And it's
Yes,
just like,
exactly.
that's the best. Okay, I've got a couple more for you at this point. basically, I consider us still at the top of the year, even though we're recording this on March 1st, which
Yeah.
is crazy. But
Right. I know.
and you've already touched on a couple of these things, but I kind of want to know what are like some lofty goals that you've set for yourself for hopefully the end of this year.
Ooh, for the end of this year. So I mean, I have a few. A lot of them relates to the album and how well I want the album to do.
Sure.
I would love the album as a whole to reach 500,000 streams, like all the
Easy.
songs collectively. So I think it's a pretty realistic goal, but also a push for me because definitely that would far surpass what we've had in the past. But at the rate that things are going so far with the singles, I think it's possible. So I want to definitely like exponentially increase our streaming, which would of course would help with followers and new fans and just
Sure.
kind of reach that next tier of independent artist,
Yes.
to where I'm like just that much more known, because honestly that just opens up more opportunities. And I also just would love this year to be like, my main goal really is to just be back on tour full time, like I was supposed to be pre-pandemic.
Yes.
Yeah, so hopefully those things can pan out. Beyond this year, though, I do have a few major goals. I'm just going to put it out there now.
Do it.
I really want to perform at Red Rocks
Oh
because,
God, who doesn't
from
want
Denver,
to?
and it's also
Yeah.
like the best venue in the world.
Yeah.
So Red Rocks, I'm coming for you. And I've been saying this in several of my interviews. And if I just keep putting it out there, it's bound to happen. And then we can say, hey, remember when Fia said.
Exactly. Seriously though, I mean, that is a dream. That is a dream.
Yeah.
And I hope it happens. If not this year, next year, but it will happen. Just keep
Thank you.
talking.
I agree.
Awesome. Okay, Fia, one more question. Basically, the question is, for the person that is going to discover you from this, and for the person that is going to listen to your music for the first time, what is an opening message that you'd like to say to them?
I would like to say thank you so much for being here. I hope that you can see a little piece of yourself in me and in my music, and welcome to the empire.
Boom. Love it. This has been fantastic. And please let me shout out your music one more time. The album is called Red Umbrella. By the time this comes out, the album will be out. But we will have links so that you can listen and follow and share with your family and friends and do all that fun stuff. But Fia, I want to thank you so much for your time. This has been great. And I'm personally invested at this point. I'm really looking forward to what happens the rest of this year.
Oh, thank you so much. And I just want to say thank you so much for having me. I'm also like sincerely so grateful. As you know, I love you guys, and I just really appreciate the time to talk about something that's so important to me. And I can't wait to do more stuff together.
Looking forward to it. Have an amazing rest of your day, and
You too.
we will stay in touch.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.